Hey, Randy, can you promote Paul Howick to a panelist, please? Because he's going to give us an update on AT&T.
Okay, sure.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Just waiting for another alderman to join so we can have a quorum. So we'll get started shortly, hopefully.
What?
Hey, Kerry.
How you doing?
Good. We're just waiting for one more to get going.
Okay.
Hey, Randy, can you promote Annette to a panelist, please? She just jumped on.
Got it.
Thank you. All right, we have a quorum now, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. It is 6:11 p.m. Start with the roll call. Alderman Donahue's here. Alderman Bilotto, absent. Alderman Klinker.
I'm here.
Alderman Alexander.
Here.
And Alderman Johnson.
Here.
All right, welcome, Dex. We have 4 present and 1 absent. Moving on, we have received 1 public comment from Carol to Pay Screen. I'll read the comment now. It says, we need the Finance Committee to direct Blue Island taxpayer dollars to our roadways. We need our BI taxpayer dollars directed towards necessities that include advanced life-saving services, Blue Island Fire Department equipment, Blue Island Police Department body cameras, and Blue Island roadways. 2021 appropriations needs to put money into advanced life-saving services, Blue Island Advanced Life-Saving Service ambulances and fire trucks, Blue Island Police Department body cameras, roadways, upgrade Blue Island City Hall cybersecurity, upgrade audio at City Hall, and implement 20% water rate rollback. Appropriations is the biggest part of the critical process to get the people's work done. Still, this Finance Committee has failed to review and pass the 20% water rate rollback as promised. Blue Island taxpayers have waited long enough. Chairman Donahue, will you please get the Finance Committee to review and get the 20% water rate rollback passed for Blue Island water consumers? The April 6, 2020 election has started. All right, great. Thank you, Ms. Green. First up under Finance Committee business is a update from AT&T. I know Paul Hollick's on the line, and then I saw Sam from AT&T and someone else from AT&T. So Paul, if you wanted to update us on where we're at with the phone lines and answer any questions that the committee might have. Thanks, Paul.
Sure. We're waiting for our request has been submitted after fighting for the last 4 to 8 weeks on asking them to do what we need them to do without having to sign a long-term contract. So the request has been submitted. Typically, change of services is anywhere from 7 to 10 business days. So that request was put in. We're just waiting. So I asked for an update today from Jane Holt. She punted to her counterpart, John, and I'm still waiting to hear. So there are 28 lines that we're waiting to get reconfigured from Centrex to POTS, analog POTS, and that's kind of where we're at with it. In the meantime, there are 4 additional numbers that Sergeant Sisk is working on with Cal Park to be able to release ownership of those 4 numbers. So Kevin can speak to that because he's working with Cal Park.
Yeah, sure. Real quickly, unfortunately, the chief of police that I've worked with over the years quit a couple weeks ago. So I've been redirected by the deputy chief of police to the fire chief, who I'm not familiar with, but I played some phone tag with him. I should be speaking with him sometime tomorrow. And the hope is to get the ball rolling and to do this through a letter of agreement. If we can do it through a letter of agreement, it'll be a lot easier process to get those transferred over. If not, we have some other options that Paul and I are going to go into, but hopefully by the end of this week, I should at least know if Cal Park's going to be on board. It's to their benefit to do this because they can't afford to lose those non-emergency lines. So I don't see it being an issue, but I should have some more knowledge by the end of the week on that.
Sorry. Thanks, Kev. Thanks, Paul. Are any questions for Paul or the 2 folks from AT&T?
No, I don't have any questions, but we are looking forward to having this big savings for our city. So whatever you can do to make sure that this happen quickly, it would be really appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. It's our focus. It's going to be a nice savings for us. And then after we can convert these analog, or I should say Centrex lines to analog, the next will be to review our T1s that we have. And there's a handful that we no longer need. So once we verify that, then we'll see additional savings.
Hey, Kevin, I just want to second what Annette said. And I also want to say it's about time. We've been asking for this since 2 years ago. The previous finance, not the last finance director, the one before, didn't do anything with it. So it's about time I got done. And thanks, Paul, for getting it done.
Sure, anytime.
Hey, Paul,
Right.
since we have AT&T on the line, I just want to ask this one question though. We've been with AT&T for so long.
Mhm.
And we've been paying such a high bill. Is there a reason why we couldn't get the same type of discount that we're getting from another source?
So the answer to that is no. So AT&T no longer wants to be in the copper business, okay? And that's what these lines run on. So AT&T has a plan in place, and they're working with corporations, companies, municipalities all over the United States to eliminate services that are running on copper. Why? Because it's old. It's a dying infrastructure. The repair costs are too high, so on and so forth. So even we have several banks in the Chicagoland area that have T1 lines to all their locations, and AT&T is proactively forcing them off of the copper T1s to fiber optic. In this situation for the city of Blue Island, these are just regular phone lines. So the cost of, you can think of them as landlines, like to a residential house, except we have a lot of them. So that's also part of the business that AT&T doesn't want to continue to maintain. And this is all public knowledge. This is all, their plan, getting to the future and moving over to fiber optic and other technologies, which is fine. So in our case, we just need to have these lines recoded from Centrex to analog, and then we'll be able to make better use of them and also see cost reduction and things of that nature.
Okay, and did you say we were going to be receiving fees to do this or no?
Yes, we're being charged 2 fees on each line, totaling $95 per line to do this.
And how many lines is it?
There's 28 on the list that still need to move. We've already moved 28. We need to move 28 more.
And those fees we're being charged by AT&T or the new?
No, not the new provider. This is AT&T. So again, and Sam, I see that you're on the line here. I'm a telecom. Not only am I the virtual CIO for the city of Blue Island here from an IT perspective, but I've also been doing telecom for 20 plus years. So my organization is also a broker. We're in the channel. We sell every carrier coast to coast, so on and so forth, including AT&T's products. I'm a friend of Z Hussein, who's the first vice president for AT&T globally as well. So in this case, the city's we're trying to be conservative. We need to save money. The increase in the analog POTS lines, Centrex and POTS, has gone up over the years exponentially. So there is a carrier who will be taking the analog lines and giving the city a reduction, which is great. Unfortunately, this would have already been done with the first 28 lines. However, the current 28 lines are coded differently, and they just need to be coded as regular analog POTS instead of the Centrex features that are on them today. So that's just what we're doing here.
Okay,
Great.
so
So to
Paul,
answer your question, in that AT&T is charging these fees on these lines. Why? That's their policy. That's what they're doing. I don't know if it's time for them to. shouldn't take long for them to complete this. Typically, it happens in 7 to 10 business days. I'm still waiting for that answer. However, this is just their fee. I believe that, they're just trying to, continue to earn revenue based on these 28 lines.
Okay, I do understand that, but being charged $95 per line for
Right.
a service that's being discontinued by AT&T.
No. But AT&T is not telling, so AT&T is not discontinuing this service. Okay, they still offer these analog lines, and they're just charging more for them today than they did 10 years ago or 5 years ago. Exponentially more, okay? And from the city's perspective, we are starting to eliminate this type of service that we don't necessarily need. So the provider that we're moving the lines to is way less expensive than what AT&T will charge. So that's why they're being moved. Again, 28 have already been moved. We will be moving the remaining 28 lines as soon as they're reconfigured. AT&T knows most likely that we're moving these lines. So from a business perspective, this is their fee to recode these lines to be regular analog. AT&T, and nothing against AT&T. For the city, it just doesn't make sense for us to have these lines. So I have nothing against AT&T as a carrier globally. They have good products. However, we found a better provider for these types of lines that we need, and we're saving money. Now, AT&T could have come in the ballgame and been competitive. However, they want us to sign a long-term commitment for all the services we currently have, and that's not in the best interest of the city. We do not need all the services that we currently have with AT&T at the city. Technology's changed. The 911 center is no longer. So we're working on being more efficient and not needing as much infrastructure as we currently need with AT&T. It's the bottom line.
Okay, and the $95 fee was not negotiable.
It was not negotiable with our rep. That is correct.
I can just introduce myself. I'm Sam Baylart, Director of External Affairs for AT&T. And thank you for that introduction, Paul. And thank you guys for letting us be a part of this call. Like you, Paul, I've covered the south suburbs for the last 20 years. And AT&T has been committed to Blue Island with 2 facilities in Blue Island. I don't have all the tax dollars or anything that I can give you right now, but I know just in last year, $40,000 in video fees paid to the city. We have 2 facilities, like I said, a garage and a central office with many employees who provide economic development to Blue Island. I'm going to let Jane Holt, our manager, talk about the source of the product. And at this point, Jane, if you're on the call, you can come on in and talk to them about what we have on the table. Jane might have lost her signal.
I apologize, I'm double muted. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, Paul, we work with Bill Buckingham, I believe.
That's
Is his
correct.
name?
Bill Buckingham is my employee. Yes, Bill's my employee.
Yeah, we work with them pretty closely on a number of different options.
Yes, I was well aware of the options.
Yeah, so there's other options out there, and the contracts can be built with 12 months, 24 months, 36-month type terms.
Yes.
With low commitments that would be met.
Correct.
So we're happy to revisit those. You're right, the $95 per line change fee is not a negotiable item.
Correct.
And I was unaware that those were leaving AT&T. Am I understanding that right? After you
Correct.
take them from Centrex. Why would you have to, just crazy question, but why would you even have to convert them to take them over? Seems like an extra expense for City of Blue Island.
Yeah, so the extra expense is going to be absorbed in the long-term savings that we're going to have moving forward. Furthermore, is that other carriers, most of them will not accept a Centrex line. It needs to be regular, straight analog, no features.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's why. So we've already moved 28. We're moving 28 more, and that's the goal. And the city's going to see and be the benefit of long-term savings without any contract with the new carrier, without any penalties for cancellation if they're not needed. So this was a decision that's good for the city, and they're going to see savings. I'm not saying that. I sell AT&T products all day long, to other customers that make sense. Like I said, I'm a broker. My organization is #1 in the Midwest, actually, in the channel. I go to the AT&T event every single year. I'm a proponent of AT&T, but when it comes down to this perspective, it just wasn't the best decision for the city long term. So we all know everybody's eliminating analog lines. We know that copper's a dying infrastructure, and it's an infrastructure that's old and antiquated and needs repair. And most carriers are increasing their prices, along the way here in the future. So the future is fiber optic amongst wireless, and it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And we could have also transitioned to a IP type of solution. But again, when we received the LOA back in December of last year, and started working through a number of the different options, my concern, and as Sammy, him and I represent a lot of the folks out in the south suburbs. Matter of fact, I was born in Blue Island, so it's near and dear to my heart. I'm a south suburb girl, and I support your school districts and all your neighboring, school districts and many of the towns. So I always want the right thing for the city. But we could also have looked at an IP solution, and we're happy to revisit that. But it sounds like we're already down that road.
Right.
And the order.
Most of these lines and numbers are going to be going away in the future once we review utilization. So from an AT&T perspective, this is not a painful loss for you guys whatsoever. And future needs of the city are going to be warranted. The city has a different type of kind of inadequate network to some extent. So there's lots of future technologies that AT&T will be a part of when we sit down to review, new stuff for the city. So again, these are analog POTS lines. Nobody really wants them. Most carriers don't even sell them anymore. And this is a good thing for both parties.
Yeah, I get it. I understand.
What I mean? So
absolutely, Paul. And we have your LOA on file, and I'll continue, as the LOA says, to copy, I believe it's Marisol right now.
Right. Topeka is no longer here because she was the point person for this. So Topeka's no longer here. So Marisol's covering that, to my understanding. Okay.
We received the change from your office, and I think from you directly on the 15th of March.
That's
to
correct.
Move forward. Yeah. So it does take us.
After review of all the different options that you guys laid out.
Right. So we should have those orders. John should have that order. And I punted to him, as you said, because he is my partner.
That's fine.
So we're both supporting Blue Island, and you will have those this week.
Great. That sounds good. Yeah. Typically. Yeah. So typically, it kind of happens in 7 to 10 business days per execution. I just kind of wanted to temperature gauge of where we're at, make sure we're moving forward so that we can get it done.
Wonderful. Thank you. We look forward to working with you and, of course, continued partnership with the city.
Absolutely.
This is Kerry Horvath. Can I ask just one quick, from a financial point of view, which I think was the concern of the Finance Committee, how will this change the cost to the city, if at all? And that's, I think, was the initial genesis of the Finance Committee's concern to begin with.
Significantly, Kerry. Significantly. So.
All right, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Paul.
I said significantly. Significantly.
What does that mean when we
Yeah.
say?
All right.
We have an idea. That's
What does it
So-
mean?
So just like all the other prior committee meetings that we've been discussing this project, we'll see up to 50% savings. And the goal will be continue to go through what we have, as well as be more efficient with what we have and what we actually need. So even though that we're supporting Blue Island on a daily basis, from an IT perspective, prior finance directors have never brought me in to assist with the infrastructure billing and what they're paying. We have Comcast in the city, we have AT&T in the city, and we have a couple other carriers in the city. Outside of that, the billing perspective has never been, I've never been involved in with a couple of the prior finance directors. So Topeka asked and came to me and said, can I help? And I said, absolutely. So we started reviewing all of the bills for all the carriers. And there's absolutely savings there that we can achieve. So this was the big one that stuck out because we have so many of these lines that are unneeded, but we want to make sure, especially from a life safety perspective, that they are unneeded. So we will be reviewing usage reports after they get moved over, and we will be able to downturn without penalty, not being under contract with this new carrier on these lines. So this is something that my organization does all the time for lots of customers. I've just never been invited to do it here at Blue Island until Topeka came to me and asked, what can we do here? So.
Okay, so when you said 50% savings.
Yes, we're paying like $20,000 a month, Kerry, to AT&T. So
Okay.
there's other line items within the bill. And you have to keep in mind, everybody on this call, you have to keep in mind, we have a municipality that, you know, as the administration changes year after year after year, right? Focus is lost, right? There are lines here at the city that we've had that have been there for 25 plus years that aren't even connected to anything after we did it or when we did our audit, right? So this became a focus, this became a project to figure out how to be more efficient so we can see a savings.
Okay, I'm just trying to get a sense in literally in dollars and cents
Sure.
of what we were discussing. And thankfully, Topeka was able to realize that this could be done, and she brought you in for some help. So I appreciate you taking the time to explain that part, Paul. Thank you very much.
Sure, anytime.
Sounds like Paul,
Right.
you had some experience in making these decisions for cities in the south suburbs.
Not just cities, but organizations all over. You know, our largest customer, Paradigm, has.
You know, hey, Paul, Sam, we have a lot of other stuff to get to,
Sure.
so I don't know if this conversation is pertinent to
Not a
what's
problem.
on, what we're trying to accomplish today. So,
Sure. Any other questions?
no, anything in that, Jim?
I'm
Nothing
good.
from me.
All right, great. Well, thank you. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Jane. Thanks, Paul, for taking the time to update us on this and answer any of the questions we had. So thanks again.
Sure.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Great, thanks. Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
too.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Good night, guys. Yep. See ya. All right. Moving on. Our next item is the 2021 budget appropriation. We went through this pretty much a lot of detail last week, and we had some follow-up questions about the revenues and some of the missing items. And I think Chris, in Marisol's email, answered a lot of those. Are there any other outstanding questions about the appropriation?
Yeah, Kevin. I went through revenues a lot more closely today, shall we say. I just want to know how confident we are that these revenues are going to come in as what we're projecting, because I'm looking at some of them, and I just got a couple off the top of my head. Number 3421 debt recovery program, we're adding $182,000. From last year we collected $2,513. Now we're looking to collect $185,000. That's a huge number. And if these numbers, and that's just one of them, I actually came up with over $700,000 worth of questions that I have on revenues based on what we actually brought in last year, and even comparing back to fiscal year 19, which hopefully will be more of a normal year than last year was. So my question is, how I know I found a few things that were wrong. I see that the ambulance fees were corrected. I believe Chief Dan sent that off to the accounting firm. But how confident are we that these revenue projections are actually going to come true? Because if we're down, like I said, over close to $700,000, we're going to be up a creek at the end of the year.
All right, Chris, I'm going to lean on you to answer that. How do we cut? I guess, well, what was the basis for increasing some of these revenue projections? I guess
that's a good question. Where did they come from?
One second. I'm trying to locate the line item of what you're talking about. A lot of these numbers are, they're being projected off of the same projections we had in the prior years, and with 2020 being the downturn year, obviously projections in as they were in the prior year, assuming there'd be a return to normalcy. I can certainly lower these down if we need to.
I don't know if you could talk a little louder. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
I'll give you another one here. Building violations, 3460. We're appropriating 75,000. Last year we collected 8,341. In 2019 we collected 20,000. So, even if you go back to 2019, that's a $55,000 projected increase in that revenue, just that line item. And there's a bunch of them. I mean, I really don't. I list them all if you want, or I can email them to somebody or whatever. But there's a bunch of them. Okay. Towing fees is an additional $34,350. It might not sound like a lot of money when we're looking at 16 million, but when you add them all up, it adds up to a lot of money.
Right. Absolutely, I agree with you on that. Like I said, a lot of these projections are just maintaining projection levels from the prior year, and if they need to be adjusted down to an actual more realization, then we can do that.
Okay.
I'm not confident in these numbers, Chairman. That's what I'm saying. I'm not confident in the revenue projections. I'm not confident in the way this whole process has worked. I know I've been asking for this stuff for months and months. We were promised stuff back in November with the timeline from the finance director. We got this stuff, 3 weeks ago now? We worked on it last week for, 3 hours or whatever it was. And I appreciate the changes that this firm has made and everything that I think we asked for. I do have one question on another account when we get to expenses. But I just personally am not confident with these revenue projections. I don't think they should be as high as they are. That's my personal opinion.
All right. Thank you. Did you want to, while we're on revenues, any other questions on the revenues?
Yeah, I also saw where it has liquor licenses. It was appropriated 15,000, but it says actual 0, but then we're appropriating 15,000 again. So I don't understand that one as well, why there was no actual revenues for liquor licenses, as many bars as we have in Blue Island. So yeah, I'm not confident, like Klinker says, with these numbers as well. It's a lot of these numbers, no actual was last year, but we still doing appropriations for this year. So.
Okay. Chris, I guess, is that something, can you look into and see why there's no liquor license fees recorded?
Yeah, that one might be as simple as it's just being coded to an incorrect location. I'll take a look into that.
Great, thanks. All right, anything else on revenue? All right, anything on expenses? I know, Jim, you said you had something, so we'll just start with you.
Yeah, so we asked about the 4 different legal accounts that were different from what was on here as actual spent in fiscal year 20. and what I received from the finance director through you, Chairman, back at the end of January. And the one was corrected. The one 480-7210. If he could explain how that was corrected, and then I have one more question on one of the other accounts.
Yeah,
Sure.
let me,
Chris,
let
go
me
ahead.
pull up that account here. I have a copy of it.
I mean, I know we got a printout. It's of a couple of things, and it says recalculation and 2019 accounts payable. I kind of have an idea, I think, but I'd like to make sure what actually
Okay,
happened here.
Not a problem. So I sent out to Marisol a correction of the two that were off. So I just want to make sure that I'm looking at the correct one here. Were you able to get both of them? Because there was two tabs in one.
Nope.
And
I did not, unless I missed the second tab. All I got was that one, because that was my next question, is what about the other one, which was 409-6640?
okay, and that's the larger of the two. Okay.
Yeah, much larger.
I do apologize. What I sent was both of them. They were just two different tabs in one Excel. I was trying to keep the attachments to a minimum.
Maybe,
So-
I'm trying to pull it up now. Maybe I missed it, but anyway, keep talking. I'm sorry.
Okay, not a problem. So essentially, the report that you had was all checks that were wrote for the year 2020. Now, the checks that were wrote in the beginning of the year, I had gone through and I put on the left-hand side here. Those were expenditures for the fiscal year 2019, your accrual basis. So if the bill came in prior to the end of the year, then essentially those amounts need to be backed off of what is considered a 2020 expense. Now, there was the other part that what you're missing, or the other big part rather.
You know what? Hang on one second, Chris. Yeah, I just found. I'm looking at my computer instead of my iPad, and I actually found that other one, 409-6640. She did attach it. I just want to make sure that's clear. So I'm sorry to interrupt.
Not a problem. So it's the same concept for both of them. Is you have expenditures that were on that report that need to be backed off because they were 2019 expenditures. And I believe the report was sent to you in January when Topeka wasn't done with her accruals for the 2020 year. So she had added additional items in. So if we're looking at 7210, there was an additional 13,101.15 that were expenditures that didn't make it to your report but should be on there. They were just the timing issue of when the report was requested and when she was done with her work. There's additional items in the middle. There's reclasses that she did throughout the year that I'm guessing occurred after that report was printed for you. That totaled the 22,000. And then the other thing happened on 10/6. She moved some expenditures around to meet budget limits. She transferred 75,000 out of the 6640 one, and then 25,000 of it ended up here. And if I need to, I can figure out where the other 50,000 was. It just didn't make it into this reconciliation, but I can grab those accounts real quick if you need.
That's okay. I appreciate the explanation, and I'm glad I found that second one finally, because that was kind of bugging me. But I'm not an accountant. I don't pretend to be one, but it actually makes sense to me.
Right.
So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And then neither of those two had any remaining outstanding variances after that.
Thank you.
So Chris, if I understand what you're saying, some of those items were actually expenses that were incurred in fiscal year 2019, but they were paid in 2020.
Right, and it's just the way that the report was printed. It showed it more of a cash basis kind of thing of when the checks were wrote.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions on the expense side of things?
I got a couple questions, Kevin. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Alderman Dex.
I was wondering if those numbers was inserted for the ambulances for ALS, and next I had asked about the sound system for city council because it's garbage.
Sure. So the money, I believe, if you look in the fire department, I'm trying to phrase this. Most of the appropriation for the department stayed basically flat. The fire department went up significantly, and Chief Reed is on. Chief, was that money, we put that in for the ALS upgrades and covering the overtime, correct?
Yeah, the largest increases, you're right, Alderman Donahue. The largest increases were for the overtime for ALS for the guys going to school. The three extra hires that would have been paramedics, and then obviously the equipment. I think what Alderman Johnson, if you're asking about the ALS upgrade fees for revenue, that was projected out as well. Best case scenario based on if we were comparable to what other towns around us were doing, that was what those numbers would be projected at if we were to go ALS and then obviously change our billing ordinance. And then I think the GMT was also included in there, which you guys approved I think it was last fall or spring.
Thank you. And
Go
sound
ahead,
system.
Dexter. I don't think we put the sound system in the appropriation, but if that's something the committee wants to fund this year, I'm not opposed to it.
Because like if you listen to it at home, Chairman, you can't understand anything that neither one of us says. And then we cut out and cut in and things of that nature. And the system is probably old as I am,
Right. What Chris, what account would that fall under?
I'll have to.
Would that go under general government? It's like in building improvements, maybe?
More than likely, I will have to double check. I don't want to give you a wrong answer on that, but I can get one for you.
Great. And I don't know, and it's probably something, I don't know if anyone's got in quotes or looked at it, so I don't know if we could project how much it would cost. So I'm looking to see if the committee wants to include something and put an estimated number on there. Again, I'm okay doing that. I just want to make sure everyone else is on board.
Chairman Donahue?
Sure, Paul.
I've gone through that system. To replace that system it will not be inexpensive. Moreover, I think there's a step that needs to be completed from a testing perspective with setting up for council microphones. And is it the cutting in and out based on being there in person, or is it when it's being broadcast live on television?
It was on when you're at home.
Okay,
and you're watching it.
Yep.
It's cutting in and out.
Okay.
And who are you again? And what do you say is not expensive?
So this is Paul Hollick. This is your IT person at the city. I handle all the infrastructure and technology computers at the city. We have looked at the sound system and speakers in the annex, but I think I'm open. I have lots of AV companies out there that do exactly what was done at the annex. I just think before diving in and ripping everything out and replacing it, that testing should be done so that we can figure out what parts need to get upgraded. Does the whole system need to be overhauled? How can we integrate it with, either Zoom or additional video cameras, things of that nature, obviously due to what has transpired in the last 12 months with COVID and pandemic and things of that nature. So I just think that speaking from my experience on what systems I've purchased, it's not inexpensive. I've seen all the gear and the speakers and the mixers and things of that nature. So I think that we should do some testing first to make sure, what's broke, what's not broke, what needs to get upgraded. Just my 2 cents.
Okay. And I thank you.
I can.
But if you can give us some numbers when you get a chance, I appreciate it.
Sure. Absolutely.
As well, I anything to save some dollars, that's great. Like you said, it could be something that might not be as costly, to the city. But I know the system itself is old. But if you could do what you can to find out expeditiously, I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
So from the testing that I've done, this has been the TV station manager. The testing that I've done, if you plug, it's not the microphones, it's not the XLR audio cables that plug into the microphones, it's the PA system that we're tapping into
Okay.
for the broadcast. So yeah, we have a new mixer now, actually, that we got recently. So that wasn't the problem either. It's just the PA system that we're pulling from, because if people have a meeting when I'm not there broadcasting it, people still have trouble hearing from the back of the room. If
Okay.
I plug into the microphone directly into my camera to shoot a video, for example, like we've been doing with Mayor Vargas recently, audio is fine if it's going directly into the camera. But because the PA system is the middleman, it's going from the microphones to the PA system, from the PA system to the TV system, it's that middle part that's the problem.
Okay, great, perfect. Thank you, Ben, for that. And
Yep.
like I said, we should do some more testing, Ben. We could get, schedule a date, get it on the calendar, do some more testing so we can identify the system and, what we can get to replace it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other
Ben,
questions,
I thank you very. I was just thinking of being chairman, because I had talked to him earlier about it, and if they had any kind of ballpark numbers that we could have put in there, that would have helped us to appropriate for something. Because I don't, it's kind of bad, especially when you got elderly people trying to listen to it. Or they don't even have to be elderly. It could be you and I trying to listen to it and don't understand. But thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Any other questions about the appropriation?
Chairman Donahue, Paul Hollick again. Do we know and obviously with the way things have unfolded here and Topeka's no longer here, do we know if from a technology perspective, what dollars were placed in appropriations for next year? There are some expiration of services that we'll have to renew. One is the antivirus for the network. And secondly, everybody can attest to the pain of the spam that we've been getting for a while now. So there's a couple other things that Topeka and I were speaking about that we could take a look at to cut back on our spam, so on and so forth.
I'm not sure on specific numbers in the IT realm, but if we have to do those upgrades, I think we could, to protect the cybersecurity so the system doesn't get attacked again.
Yes.
And it would be nice not to get flooded with 20 emails every night for flowers and drugs and all sorts of other crazy stuff. So
correct, and that's exactly what her and I were speaking about.
Once again, Kevin, not to beat a dead horse, but had we been apprised of this situation months ago, like we should have, we'd have an answer to that question for that guy right now. Had we had any clue whatsoever what was going on, which we have not had until 3 weeks ago, no matter how many times we asked for information.
This is Kerry Horvath again. There is an appropriation for computer hardware and software of $70,000. I don't know if that addresses Paul's question. Alderman Klinker, you may or may not have gotten along with Ms. Carthen, but I don't think it's appropriate to continually denigrate the job that she tried to do while she was here. It seems to me that every chance you get,
Mr. Horvath, it has nothing to do with whether I got along with anyone or didn't. I did not get along with anyone. All I'm trying to do was get information that this committee needs to make decisions, and this was a decision that we needed to make, and I've been asking, based on the spreadsheet, Alderman Donahue, you got it too, am I correct? We should have been seeing these numbers back in December, preliminary numbers. We would have some idea what's going on. That's what I'm saying. I'm not denigrating anyone. I'm not putting anyone down. I'm not saying anyone did a poor job. I'm just saying we were not given the information that we needed to make these decisions until 3 weeks ago. That's what I'm saying, Mr. Horvath.
But you don't have to be negative toward former personnel. And so I'm just making that comment because that's what it sounds like, at least to my ears, as I listen to you. So
well, I apologize if you take it as negative.
There is a line item.
If you take it as negative or anyone else takes it as negative, it's not negative. All I've been asking for in a very positive way, Chairman Donahue, correct me if I'm wrong, I've been going through you, is information. And we didn't get it.
Okay.
There's a line item for IT.
So,
That's
so
all I was
Carrie,
like.
Carrie, because you have it in front of you, what's the technology one? What department was that
It's
in?
409-6660, Alderman Donahue. Computer hardware, software. Fiscal year 20 was appropriated 75. Fiscal year actual came out to $67,738. And so fiscal year 21, there was an appropriation of 70,000 included. So I don't know if that addresses what Paul was talking about, but there is a line item that I just happened to catch as I was scanning the appropriation ordinance.
Gotcha. Paul, is that enough to cover what you need to do, or does that need to be increased?
No, we should be okay with that number. We'll make it work. If it's not enough, we'll make it work. But we should be okay. The antivirus Symantec is the renewals like $3,500. Typically, it's a 3-year deal. It's $12 per person and or per device. So I'm not worried about that. So I just want to make sure that there are dollars in there. So I just know, when Topeka and I were talking about it, we just never solidified it. And now that she's no longer here, I just wanted to make sure. So thank you for addressing that.
Yeah, great. And thanks for finding that, Carrie. Any other questions about this, about the appropriation?
Yes, Alderman Donahue. I was waiting to get an answer on the part-time hourly salary for the marketing department.
Sure. Chris, were we able to get an answer on that? Or Ben, because I think that's for you. Do you know, because the way it's set up, Ben, in the marketing, there's a part-time salary and a full-time salary, I think. Do you know, are you paid part-time hourly, or are you paid the full-time wage? Because the part-time is a lot higher than what the full-time is.
Yeah, so I'd have to take a look at what you're saying, because we don't have anyone full-time. I'm part-time. Christina would be here for just council meetings, like you said in the last meeting, and we will need someone. She would be returning once we have in-person meetings again to handle that, since it would be a 2-person job again. But yeah, we're both part-time. I'm here the majority of the time, and she's just here the 2 days a month when we have in-person council meetings. So I don't know what the full-time one is, unless I'm just listed as full-time, even though.
No, it's weird. That's where the discrepancy. The full-time salary is very low. It's only $3,500, and then the part-time is a lot higher. It's $22,000. So we were just trying to figure out who's in that position full-time, and it could just be that it was there in the past when we had a full-time station manager, and we just never got it. Just never, because in 2019 we appropriated $25K for it, but then we only paid $8,000 in 2019, and then this year we didn't appropriate anything, and then we put an actual of $3,442. So I don't know, maybe if it just got billed incorrectly, or it coded incorrectly in the payroll system.
Yeah, I'd have to look at it to be sure, but I think it's probably just supposed to say part-time for both of them, and that's correct.
So,
hey, Randy,
do you have that line item number?
Yeah, so Randy, it's in the marketing department, 495, and then it's 5,100. It's the full-time one, and then 5,300 or 5,200 is the part-time.
Okay.
It could just be, Chris, if there's no one in that, we could probably just zero that out again, because there is no full-time employee there.
okay, because what I'm looking at the Paycom reports, and those 2 employees that Ben mentioned, those tie out exactly to the part-time one. So whoever is in that full-time one there is either no longer here, or it was coded in error.
Okay. And does that kind of answer your question? I know it was a very convoluted answer.
Yeah, so we're not going to zero out the full-time. We're only going to have the part-time salaries. And could we make notation beside there exactly who are the part-time employees?
I'll go ahead and do that right now.
Great.
Chris, I see 135, 197.86 every pay period coming out, or it started out 131.37. Every pay period there is some entry in there.
Okay, so it's throughout the year, so it's
On
more than likely.
5,100 and 495, and then, and again, part-time. You have the breakdown of the employees and how they're spread. I'll bet you it's like, I'm going to say something like, and I don't know who, maybe Mark Miller might get a portion of his pay paid out of marketing. I just say his name, any name, name a person. It could be as simple as that.
Okay. Any other questions about the appropriation and any other line items?
And my other question was the repair and remodeling for the library for the 60,000. I thought we were gonna get a list of the repairs that was going to be happening at the library.
Yeah, I sent an email to the executive director of the library, and I've not heard back. So maybe I'll give her a phone call tomorrow to see if she could send that over. I'm just trying to think if I've seen anything at the library new. I know they fixed the door and the entryway, but that was when the car crashed into it. That was over a year ago. But so Annette, I don't have an answer. I will try and get a hold of her tomorrow before City Council.
Okay, so what would be the process if we don't hear back for the 60,000?
We've on the 8 years I've been on City Council, we've never touched the library's appropriation to change it like that. So I don't know if we can do that. Carrie, is that something we're able to change?
You shouldn't change their appropriation since they use us in effect as a pass through to have the appropriation done, but their appropriation is to fund their operation completely, and we don't really have any direct say. It's essentially the library, the board, and then the management of the library. And we also do their levy for them, but we actually levy what they ask us to levy. So I would stay away from the library's appropriation.
So, hey, Annette, I'll confirm it, but it sounds like that the library is doing some outside beautification projects this year. But I will try and get that confirmed.
One thing I wanted to note real quick, I did touch their appropriation to adjust the IMRF, as that was a question the council had the last week. Was it wasn't updated for the new calculation. Should I put it back to where it was, or is that calculation correct? I mean, it's a simple calculation based off of the salary projections.
IMRF, the IMRF, they don't have multiple percentages for different governing bodies, do they, Chris? It's all the same. So
yeah.
So they might have just not caught it. So is that okay, Carrie, that we fix that for them?
If Chris is comfortable doing that, if that's based on an accounting calculation, yes, we can correct that. We probably contact them first though to see what they actually did. Chris, did you talk with them about that, or does that just?
No, I made that change when we were going through last week. I was making changes as we were talking, and that had come up.
Okay. As long as you're comfortable with that, yes. If it's a correction, you can do that.
So Annette, I will try and get that confirmed about the outside beautification project. But it sounds like that they're going to rip up some asphalt and go green and put in a new parkway, green parkway, which won't only help beautify it, and it'll help maybe with some flooding, because that's always an issue. When you have too much concrete, the water can't go anywhere. So a porous surface is always helpful. So, but I will confirm that, or try and confirm that with her tomorrow.
Okay, thanks. And I wasn't able to hear you, Attorney Horvath, when you were saying that, what was the purpose of their appropriations being a part of the city's appropriation?
legally, they have to do their appropriation as part of ours. We actually essentially serve as a pass-through to get their appropriation on file with the county clerk. We also, and the treasurer, we also do their levy for them, Alderman Alexander, but it's really the levy that they prepare. So what I'm saying is, in preparing their appropriation, we didn't have any input into it. We can make a correction such as the one that Chris Chambly just mentioned, but we should not just change their appropriation because we have nothing really to say about it other than they have to have the money or they can't spend the money, and that's the bottom line. But they can make the appropriation for beautification or whatever it is that you're concerned about, and as long as the money is there, they can then expend it. But their money comes strictly from the tax levy and whatever fees they may collect from customers that use the library.
Okay, so the city of Blue Island is not responsible for their appropriation. We're just being used to get it passed through along with ours, correct? That's it, right?
That is basically correct, yes.
Okay, okay.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, any other questions? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve
Kevin,
this so we could?
I'm sorry, I had one suggestion, and that
Sure.
this is on the last, it's called Risk Management Account 480.
Okay.
And there's a line item 7094 for settlement payments. And in fiscal year 20, it was 322,000, and the 20 appropriation is reduced to 300,000. What I'm going to suggest is that you may want to move that back up. And the reason I'm saying that is we have two payments on the Thomas lawsuit that have to be accounted for in fiscal year 20, and those total $295,000. That was that case that we settled. We're paying it off over a 3.5-year period.
Sure.
And we're paying it from we didn't do a bond issue or anything. We're just paying it from the tax revenue that comes in. So if you only appropriate 300, that would only leave another 5,000 for settlements, which I don't believe. We've been fortunate this year because other than the Thomas settlement, I think we've been really fortunate in the fact that we've had very little of anything else to pay for. But there are also some workers' compensation cases in the pipeline that may come to fruition in 2021. They've been on hold because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so
would you recommend, what would you recommend going?
I
up
would
to
recommend
350?
staying with the $500,000 figure just to leave a cushion sufficient to cover any additional settlements that have to come in or any type of jury decision or court decision. It may not come up to that amount, but as I said, we have already 300,000 or 295,000 set aside for one case. So I would think we leave it at 5 and hope that we don't have to go to that level.
Okay, I'm cool with that. Is the rest of the committee okay bumping that up just so there's that safety net there?
I'm okay with
Aye.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, great. Chris, can you make that change, please?
Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions? No. All right. Is there? So we have to approve this so we could vote on it at City Council tomorrow. Is there a motion for approval?
Johnson.
Thank you, Dex. Is there a second? Anyone want to second this motion? I will second the motion. So Donahue with the second. We have to do a roll call vote. So I'll start it off. Alderman Donahue votes aye. Alderman Klinker?
Based on my concerns for revenue projections, no.
Okay, Alderman Alexander. Well, I'm sorry, Annette, what was that?
I'm gonna vote a no. I'm questioning the revenue as well. It's not correct.
Okay, and Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
All right, well, it's 2-2, so the motion fails. We'll have to meet again next Monday to do a special meeting, and then have a special meeting, city council meeting next Tuesday to get this thing passed. So Chris, can you take another look at those revenue projections to make sure that they're correct and we could have them for next Monday, please?
Yeah, I can definitely try. If they're not recorded, it's gonna take a while to see where they're coming from, and I can only work off of her notes. But I'll reach out to who I can and get those updated as best as possible.
Okay. Do we still have enough time, Carrie, if we do that next week? I know it's crunch time there.
Yeah, you will have to go forward. You still can go forward with the public hearing tomorrow, which has been scheduled, and there's been notice. The appropriation has to be adopted and on file, if I'm not mistaken, Randy, by the end of March, correct?
That's my understanding, yeah.
Yeah. So if you have a meeting Monday and it's adopted Tuesday of next week.
The 30th is Tuesday.
Yeah, you're still on time. Or your alternative would be to just report to the city council that the finance committee was unable to agree on the appropriation as presented, and you can request that they consider it. It's entirely up to you how you want to go about that, Kevin.
All right. Well, that's actually a good idea. We'll see if we can. We'll do it. Try it city council tomorrow, and if we can't pass it, we'll try again Monday and Tuesday then. So
maybe Chris can take a hard look at the revenue between now and tomorrow night. I know that doesn't give him any time.
Yeah.
Realistic time.
And
you can't do that, Kevin, if you care to.
Sure. Do we just need a simple majority on this, or do we need 2/3 because it's revenue?
You just need a simple majority on the appropriation ordinance itself. You need 8 votes. Eight votes.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll report that tomorrow at city council, so we could at least try and get it done. But if not, we'll go to Plan B, which is do the special meeting next Monday and then a special city council meeting Tuesday. All right. So keep moving on. We have accounts payable. I will do my best to try and answer these if there are any questions. So
Alderman Donahue, can I actually say something here for the accounts
sure.
payable?
Go ahead, Chris.
I was working with Pam and Carmine earlier today on this, late into the afternoon. So we actually pulled a check from that accounts payable run that I'm sure probably was not reflected in what you had, and I can get you that information here. Yeah,
if you could please.
Yes, it is the payment to Thornton for the this would be what check number here? The 131, 714, and 715 were pulled back. They're not paid until, or they don't have to be paid until May. We'll pay them before then. We just need to take a look at those accounts with Topeka leaving, just make sure everything is accurate for those.
Okay, so you said that was the payment to Thornton Inc. for $137,713.58.
Yes, those were pulled back and won't be part of this payroll or AP run, but will be part of the next one.
All right, let me do the math on this new number then here really quick. Thank you for that information. Yeah, that we were not told that, so thank you. So just 1 second so we could calculate this. Minus. So the new number is $563,072.
And Alderman Donahue, just so you know, I checked the statute while you were doing your calculation, and you have to just adopt the ordinance within the appropriation ordinance within the first quarter of the fiscal year. So you do have time if it can't happen tomorrow night.
Great. Thank you, Carrie. All right. Any questions on the accounts payable? Is there a motion to approve the accounts payable?
I'll make a motion.
Klinker seconds.
Great. Thank you. We'll do a roll call. Alderman Donahue votes aye. Alderman Klinker.
Aye.
Alexander.
I'm sorry, I said aye, Kevin. I don't know if you're.
Oh, yeah, I heard you, Jen, but Alderman Alexander,
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Great. Four aye votes, the motion carries. Now on to payroll. Payroll for this week is, or this time, it's $357,519.06. Any questions?
I just had one question, and I think I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but I think it was one of the, I think it was a fireman that had a lump sum payment, and I was just wondering what was that payment for. Chief, really, can you answer that for me?
I didn't see the document, so can you?
Alderman Donahue, do you have it in front of you? I think it's like
The payroll, yeah, was the fire. Do you know what the person, the name is?
No, but you will see the payroll. It's like $17,000.
No, that could have, if it's for McDonald, that could have been the adjustment from last time. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, it's for Billy. It's for $16,970.24.
That was that adjustment, and I don't quite understand what the adjustment was. I believe, who gave that explanation?
I don't know who gave it, but last time I asked about, because you had a negative number showing there.
Right.
And I don't really remember. Then we were told, and maybe Chris was who told us this, that it would be corrected the next check.
Yeah, I forget who gave, Alderman Alexander, who gave the explanation last time, but like Alderman Klinker just said, it was negative last time, and then they said it would show, to reflect the offset, it would show a larger number this time, but I don't know why it's quite that high. I mean, he's currently out on a workers' comp claim, so I don't know why it's fluctuating the way it is, to be honest.
I was not the one to give you the explanation, but I did inquire about that of the payroll clerk when I was reviewing payroll this week. And the answer that I received was that, or last week rather, the answer I received was that it had to do with the taxation of the payments he was receiving. Certain things shouldn't have been taxed when he was on workers' comp, and they were being taxed. So that was just to correct that prior mistake.
Okay.
Okay. How long has he been on workers' comp, Chief?
Since end of October of last year.
Okay, so that's like 6 months, and that adds up to 16,000.
Do you know how much what the difference was, Chris? We could probably get you a more detailed answer on how much exactly they were correcting. I don't know if Chris has that information.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I mean, 16,000 would include his current payroll as well, so that has to be backed out.
Okay, so we'll try and get an answer for you tomorrow or sometime this week, if that's okay on this one.
Yes, I would really appreciate an explanation just to understand why is it so high.
Sure, Chris, that's your other homework for tonight. If you could do that, please.
Absolutely.
If any questions, anything else on payroll? No, is there a motion to approve?
Klinker.
Is there a second?
A second.
All right. And that with the second, we'll do a roll call vote. Alderman Donahue votes aye. Alderman Klinker.
Aye.
Alderman Alexander,
Aye.
and Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
All right, 4 ayes. Payroll is approved. Item 5, any aldermanic comments or concerns? No, hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Aye.
Alderman Alexander with the motion. Is there a second?
Dexter seconded, didn't he?
Oh, Dexter second, yeah. Great, thank you, Dexter. We'll do a roll call. Alderman Donahue votes aye. Alderman Klinker,
Aye.
Alderman Alexander,
Aye.
and Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Great, we are adjourned. Our next meeting potentially might be March 29th. If not, it will be April the 5th. So everyone have a good night, and we'll see you at the public hearing virtually tomorrow.